everybody, Geoff Gatts here. Today I want to talk to you about the song Halo of Blood by Children of Bodom. This song came to me as a request, so it was really a new song to me. I was familiar generally with Children of Bodom, and I liked some of their stuff, but I'd never heard this song before. But I found that this song was a great exercise for drums, a great challenge, lots of endurance playing with blast beats and with either foot. I think it's just a great, fun song to play. So today I wanted to try to break things down for you a little bit, go over the different sections of the song and the time signatures and some of the fills, so that hopefully if you want to learn how to play this song yourself, you can take this information away and you'll be able to do that. In addition, I also want to point out that I've created a transcription of the song. It's available on my website, so feel free to check that out at gattsdrums.com. And if you haven't already done so, please take a look at my cover video, which is available either on my website or also on my YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and just dive right into the song. Alright, so first I wanted to just basically point out that this song jumps back and forth between two main time signatures. The first is 6/8 time, and then this alternates more or less every other section with 4/4 time. There are exceptions to this rule, but overall that's basically it in a nutshell. And then toward the end of the song in section I, it actually goes into 3/4 time, where it stays briefly for 2 sections until it jumps back into 6/8 for the ending of the song. So, having pointed that out, let's just take a look at the intro fill that leads into the beginning of the song. This fill is comprised of 16th notes in 6/8 time for the first 2 measures, and then in the last measure it involves what I've heard referred to as quads, where you're playing 1, 2 with your hands, followed by 3, 4 with your feet on the double bass. So while I was practicing this, I considered playing it in a few different ways, but here are the 3 ways that I felt are most applicable, probably to most people. The first way applies to if you're a right-handed drummer. This might be the easiest way to play it for you. You would simply begin the first measure of this fill with a right-handed lead, so that you're playing first 2 notes on the snare drum with your right and left hand, and then crossing your hand over to hit the hi-hat on your left side, and doing that for the first measure, and then just continuing with the alternating single strokes throughout the rest of this fill. So here's an example of that right now. Now the second way is essentially a mirror image of the first way, in which you'll be beginning this fill with your left hand, and instead of crossing your right hand over to hit the hi-hat, you'll just continue with those alternating single strokes, beginning with your left hand, so that you're hitting 2 on the 2 strokes on the snare drum, and using your left hand on the hi-hat to just go straight back and forth between the snare drum. So there's no crossing your hands at all with that method. But ultimately you will, if you have your toms on the right hand side, need to throw in a double stroke with your left hand, just so you can bring that lead back over to your right hand, which will make it easier to move around the kit to the right. You don't necessarily have to throw in like a paradiddle, just the double strokes, but it would definitely make it a little bit more awkward if you're trying to lead with your left hand while moving to your right. So here's an example of that right now. And the last way I want to point out, this might be a bit of a stretch, but I considered it while I was playing. This would simply be to pick a hand, keep it on the snare drum for the first measure, and pick your other hand and keep it on the hi-hat. You can do this with your right hand on the snare, left hand on the hi-hat, or your left hand on the snare, right hand on the hi-hat. But pick your hand, basically play all the snare drum notes with your right hand if you want to do that, and keep your left hand on the hi-hat, and then play the rest of the fill as described in the previous examples. This does require you to be pretty quick with your one or the other hand, but here's an example of what that would sound like right now. Next two sections I want to talk to you about are sections B and D, and these are the first and second sections of the song that involve 4/4 time. The main things I want to point out with these sections are that you'll be playing a quarter note pulse on the hi-hat, in addition to hitting the snare drum on 2 and 4. Underneath that, you'll be playing a syncopated 8th note pattern with your bass drum, and at the end of these sections, it all culminates in a fill that takes place over 7 quarter note counts. Basically, it'll be the first measure of the fill will be in 4/4 time. The second measure of the fill will be in 3/4 time. So here is an example of what these sections sound like. So the next sections I want to talk to you about are the blast beat sections. And truthfully, I don't really have a whole lot that I'm going to really say about these. I just wanted to break them, slow them down a little bit for you and play through them again so you can really see what I'm doing. If you haven't already thought of this, I always like to encourage people to begin playing not only blast beats with their right hand, if they're a right-handed drummer, but also with their left hand. So for example, if you have a blast between your snare and your hi-hat, as I did in the cover video, I prefer to actually play my left hand on the hi-hat, alternating with the snare drum, instead of always playing with my right hand on the hi-hat. I just think that's a great way to build up your endurance with your left hand, open up your playing a lot so you have more options with your left and right hand, and especially too, if you begin to use your left foot and not just your right foot for blasting, you can actually extend your endurance a lot because you can pass the blasting foot back and forth between your right foot and your left foot, so you're not using only one foot for the entire song. Alright, the last two sections I want to talk to you about are sections I and J. Now after section H, section I is basically this double bass showcase of the song. Both of these sections are in 3/4 time, I and J. And in section I, you'll be playing quarter notes on the snare drum and the hi-hat. So 1, 2, 3, you'll be hitting every quarter note. And underneath that, you'll be playing 16th notes with your bass drum, either on the first and second count of each measure, or the entire way through each measure. And then after that, in section J, you'll be doing some cymbal grabs, followed by a really nice fill around the snare drum and toms. So let me play through these sections for you, slowed down so you can really hear how things progress. Alright everybody, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment in the comment section below and let me know if you have any future videos you'd like to see or any lessons that you'd like to see me make as well. Thanks.